Imagine waking up tomorrow morning with the same life you have today. The same job, the same people around you, the same struggles. But here's the twist. You are completely different. You don't get rattled by the same petty frustrations. You don't feel the same heavy anxiety when things go wrong. You don't chase every distraction, every false sense of urgency. Instead, you feel calm. You feel centered. You feel unshakable. This is not fantasy. This is not magic. This is the quiet, unglamorous power of Stoicism, a philosophy born over 2,000 years ago, yet more necessary today than ever before. The world we live in is loud. Everyone wants your attention. Your phone buzzes with notifications. News alerts scream for outrage. Social media pulls you into endless comparison. It feels like you're constantly reacting, like you're a puppet, and life, not you, is holding the strings. This is exactly where Eric found himself. Eric was like most people. His morning started with checking his phone before even leaving bed. He compared himself to strangers on Instagram before he even brushed his teeth. He rushed to work, feeling already behind. He said yes to things he didn't want to do. He said no to nothing except his own well-being. On the surface, Eric's life looked fine, but under the surface, he was drowning in noise. One evening, at a small cafe, Eric's friend handed him an old, worn-out book. The cover read, "Meditations, Marcus Aurelius." Inside were words written not by some self-help guru, but by a man who was once the most powerful ruler on earth, yet struggled with the same human fears, temptations, and frustrations you and I face today. That night, Eric read a single sentence that stopped him in his tracks. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He closed the book, sat in silence, and felt something he hadn't felt in years. The possibility of freedom. Not freedom from problems, but freedom from being ruled by them. This is the first principle of our journey today. Your mind is your kingdom. And if you learn to rule it well, no storm outside can shake you inside. In the next hour, I'm going to walk you through 7 Stoic principles that can completely change your relationship with life, the same way they transformed Eric's. We'll go deep. We'll take our time. And by the end, you will not only understand Stoicism, you will be ready to live it. Part 1 of this journey is about the awakening. Before you can master the art of letting go, before you can face chaos without flinching, you must first see clearly where you are and who you've been letting control your life. Here's what we'll uncover in this first section. Why modern life is designed to keep you distracted and anxious. How the Stoics saw life's storms and why they welcomed them. The key shift in thinking that instantly puts you back in control. And a simple exercise you can do today to begin. Let's start with the truth the Stoics understood long before we had phones, emails, and deadlines. Life will never slow down for you. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, fought wars, faced plagues, and lost children to illness, yet still found the time to write quietly to himself each night about gratitude, discipline, and the shortness of life. If he could remain composed in that world, what excuse do we have in ours? Most of our suffering today comes from one mistake. We believe that peace comes from fixing the world around us. We think, if I just earn more money, I'll feel secure. If I just find the right partner, I'll be happy. If people would just stop being so irritating, I'd be calm. The Stoics saw this for what it is, a trap. Because the truth is, you will never control the world. You can only control yourself in the world. Epictetus put it simply, we suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them. That judgment, that interpretation is yours to master. So here's your first exercise, and it starts right now. The next time something frustrates you, a driver cuts you off, a colleague interrupts you, a plan falls apart, pause. Before reacting, ask yourself, is this within my control? Or is it outside of it? If it's outside, let it go. Not because it's easy. Not because you don't care, but because your energy is too precious to waste on what you cannot change. In the next part, we'll dive into starting small, the surprisingly simple but deeply powerful way Stoics built unshakable resilience. Because mastery over the mind isn't built in a day. It's built in moments. And your first moment begins now. Every great fortress is built brick by brick. Every towering tree starts as a seed no bigger than your fingernail. And every unshakable Stoic from Marcus Aurelius to Seneca began with small, almost invisible choices. One of the most common mistakes people make when trying to change their lives is this. They think they need a grand transformation all at once. They picture themselves waking up at 5 a.m., meditating for an hour, running 10 kilometers, eating perfectly, reading philosophy, and ending the day without a single wasted moment. And for a day, maybe they do it. But by day 3, the weight of perfection crushes them, and they quit. The Stoics knew better. They understood that discipline isn't built through heroic effort. Once in a while, it's forged in the quiet repetition of the smallest actions. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." The waste he's talking about isn't just binge-watching shows or scrolling endlessly. It's also the waste that comes from doing nothing, because we can't do everything. So here's the first practical Stoic step. Pick something so small you cannot fail. If you want to start meditating, don't commit to an hour. Commit to one deep breath every morning. If you want to read more, don't commit to 50 pages a day. Commit to reading a single paragraph before bed. If you want to exercise, don't vow to run a marathon. Commit to one push-up. Why? Because success fuels success. The mind loves momentum. When you make a promise to yourself, even a tiny one, and keep it, you build trust with yourself. And that trust is the bedrock of self-discipline. Eric began his Stoic journey this way. He didn't wake up and try to be Marcus Aurelius on day 1. He simply decided that each morning before touching his phone, he would drink a glass of water and write down one sentence of gratitude. That was it. At first, it felt almost too easy. But within weeks, he realized something strange. That tiny morning ritual had created a sense of calm before the noise of the day began. It gave him an anchor, a small win that set the tone for bigger wins. The Stoics understood this truth. We become what we repeatedly do, not what we occasionally dream about. Here's a second exercise for you. Tonight, write down one action you will take tomorrow that is so small it's almost laughable, but meaningful. Maybe it's one slow breath before checking your phone. Maybe it's writing one sentence in a journal. Maybe it's taking a 5-minute walk without your headphones. And here's the key. Do it every day for the next week. Don't increase it. Don't complicate it. Just prove to yourself that you can keep a promise. The Stoics didn't just preach about great virtues like courage and wisdom. They built those virtues the way a blacksmith builds a sword, heating, hammering, and refining over and over again with patience. By starting small, you give yourself something far more valuable than a burst of motivation. You give yourself consistency. And consistency is what transforms a fragile intention into an unshakable habit. In part 3, we'll face one of the greatest enemies of the modern mind, anxiety. We'll uncover how the Stoics dismantled worry, even in the face of war, loss, and uncertainty. And you'll learn how to stop letting anxiety rule over you once and for all. Anxiety. It's the quiet thief of peace. It doesn't smash the door down. It just seeps into the cracks of your thoughts, turning what if into what now. Eric knew this thief well. At work, at home, even lying in bed, anxiety whispered in his ear. What if you fail? What if you're not enough? What if it all falls apart? The Stoics faced fear, uncertainty, and loss on a scale we can barely imagine. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, led his people through plague, famine, and war. Seneca was exiled, then recalled, then forced to take his own life by the emperor he served. Epictetus spent part of his life as a slave. Yet, in their writings, they sound calm, clear, grounded. Why? Because they practiced one of the most powerful mental arts in human history. The art of separating what is in our control from what is not. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Here's the truth the Stoics saw clearly. Anxiety feeds on trying to control the uncontrollable. When you replay the past, you can't change it. When you obsess over the future, you can't predict it. But you can control what you do right now. Let's try something. Right now, wherever you are, look around the room. Name 3 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, and 1 thing you can control in the next 60 seconds. Maybe it's your breathing. Maybe it's unclenching your jaw. Maybe it's simply choosing to listen to these words until the end of this sentence. That's the Stoic practice, coming back to what's real, right here, right now. Eric began to use this in his daily life. When anxiety struck at work, instead of spiraling into, "What if they think I'm incompetent?" he asked himself, "What can I control in the next 10 minutes?" The answer was simple. He could double-check his work. He could ask a clear question. He could focus on what was in front of him, not the 1,000 imaginary disasters ahead. Another Stoic weapon against anxiety was something Seneca practiced often: voluntary discomfort. He would deliberately spend days eating the simplest food, wearing plain clothes, and living without luxuries. Why? To remind himself that he could survive, even thrive, without the things he feared losing. Seneca wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" Anxiety often comes from overestimating how bad will be. But when you face discomfort on purpose, the monster in your head gets smaller. So here's your exercise. For the next week, pick 1 simple comfort in your life and set it aside for a day. It could be sugar. It could be hot showers. It could be scrolling on your phone at night. Notice 2 things. First, you survived. Second, you felt a little freer. This is the Stoic paradox. When you stop fearing discomfort, you stop fearing life. Anxiety loses its grip when you bring your focus back to the present moment. When you strip away the illusions of control, and when you prove to yourself that you can endure more than you thought possible. In Part 4, we'll take this even further by creating a Stoic routine that doesn't just fight anxiety in the moment, but shapes your entire day to be calm, clear, and unshakable from the moment you wake up. Imagine waking up and knowing exactly how your day will begin. Not because the world is predictable, it never is, but because you have designed the opening of your day to be untouchable. This is how the Stoics built inner peace. They didn't hope for a good day. They created one with deliberate morning rituals that set their minds like stone before the world could shake them. Marcus Aurelius began his mornings reminding himself of a hard truth. "Today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness. All of them due to the offender's ignorance of what is good or evil." He didn't do this to depress himself. He did it to be ready, to armor his mind. So when these challenges appeared, as they always did, they didn't surprise him. Here's how you can create your own Stoic morning. Step 1. Before your phone, before your inbox, before the noise, take 5 deep breaths. Breathe in slowly for 4 counts. Hold for 2. Exhale for 6. Feel the weight of your body where it is. Anchor yourself in the present. Step 2. Recall your principles. Write down 3 virtues you want to live by today. Courage, patience, clarity. Not vague wishes, clear guides for action. When a challenge comes later in the day, you'll know exactly which compass to follow. Step 3. Practice negative visualization. This might sound dark, but it's powerful. For 1 minute, imagine losing something you value: your job, your health, someone you love. Then, open your eyes. Notice how much more precious that thing feels right now. The Stoics did this not to dwell on loss, but to sharpen gratitude. When you've already rehearsed loss in your mind, the present moment becomes brighter, richer, and you cling to it less fearfully. Eric began using this exact structure. At first, it felt unnecessary, almost silly, but within weeks, his mornings stopped feeling like an assault. Instead of reaching for his phone and being dragged into the chaos of notifications, he started his day with intention. And here's the magic: the first 10 minutes of your morning often decide the next 10 hours. Now your Stoic day doesn't end with the morning. It also needs an evening practice. Seneca wrote letters to himself at night, reflecting on his actions, his mistakes, and his progress. Not to judge himself harshly, but to learn. You can do the same. Evening. Step 1. Ask, where did I live according to my values today? Write down one thing you did well. Step 2. Ask, where did I stray? Write down one thing you'll improve tomorrow. Step 3. Let it go. Once you've learned from the day, don't replay it endlessly. The past is a teacher, not a prison. The Stoic day is simple. Morning. Prepare your mind. Daytime. Act with virtue. Evening. Reflect and release. Follow this rhythm and you stop being a passenger in your life. You become the captain. In Part 5, we'll go beyond routine and learn how to turn every obstacle into an advantage using the Stoic power of Amor Fati, the love of fate. Life will not always give you what you want. It will give you what it gives you. You can fight it, resent it, cry out that it's unfair. Or you can do what the Stoics did and love it. Amor Fati, Latin for love of fate, not tolerance, not reluctant acceptance, but love. To Marcus Aurelius, every event was a thread in a tapestry. You may not understand why this thread is here, why its color is dark, why its texture is rough, but without it, the design would be incomplete. Epictetus said, "Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happen the way it happens. Then you will be happy." Think about that for a moment. When the flight is delayed, when the project falls apart, when the relationship ends, what if instead of saying, "Why me?" you said, "Let's see what I can do with this"? This is not weakness. It's the highest form of strength, because it transforms you from a victim of events into their student, their sculptor, their master. Eric faced this when he was laid off from his job. At first, it felt like proof of every anxious fear he'd ever had. You're not good enough. You're replaceable. You've failed. But through his Stoic practice, he began to ask, what if this is the best thing that could have happened? He used the sudden free time to study skills he'd ignored. He reached out to old contacts, not for pity, but to offer help. Within months, he wasn't just working again. He was working on something he cared about more deeply than his old role ever allowed. That is Amor Fati in action. Not pretending every event is pleasant, but finding the use in every event and embracing it as part of the whole. Practical exercise. The next time something bad happens, pause. Write down 3 ways this could serve you in the future. Could it teach you patience? Could it reveal who your true friends are? Could it push you toward a better opportunity? Choose one of those ways and act on it within 24 hours. The Stoics didn't just endure hardship. They absorbed it, transformed it, and used it as fuel. Amor Fati is the art of saying yes, not just to the sunshine, but to the storm. Because without both, there is no growth. In the final part, Part 6, we'll bring everything together, and I'll give you the Stoic roadmap to living your life with strength, peace, and purpose every single day. You've now seen how the Stoics thought, how they rose each morning to meet the day, how they faced loss, uncertainty, and change without collapsing. Now it's time to bring it all together into a way of living you can carry for the rest of your life. Because here's the truth. Wisdom means nothing if it stays in your head. Philosophy only works when you live it. Marcus Aurelius never wrote his meditations for anyone else to read. He wrote them as reminders to himself. Daily practice, daily correction, daily strengthening. And that's where your roadmap begins. Step 1. Anchor yourself in principles. You must decide what you stand for before life tests you. The Stoics chose virtue, wisdom, seeing reality as it is, courage, doing what's right despite fear, justice, giving each person their due, temperance, mastering desires instead of being mastered by them. When you have principles this clear, choices become simpler even in chaos. Step 2. Build your rhythm. We've talked about mornings and evenings, but this is more than routine. It's about becoming predictable to yourself. A Stoic rhythm means morning, prepare your mind. Daytime, act according to virtue. Evening, reflect and release. Every single day. Step 3. Train for difficulty. Comfort is a sedative. The Stoics knew this. They practiced voluntary discomfort, sleeping on a hard floor once in a while, eating plain food, walking instead of riding. Why? Because if you can be content with less, you are untouchable when less is all you have. Step 4. Turn every obstacle into fuel. You already know Amor Fati. Now make it instinctive. When something blocks your path, you ask, how can I use this? This isn't a question you ask once a month. It's the question you live by every day, every setback. Step 5. Choose your company wisely. Epictetus warned that you become like the people you spend the most time with. If your circle is cynical, you will breathe cynicism. If your circle is disciplined, you will breathe discipline. Your environment is not neutral. Choose one that lifts you. Step 6. Let go of what you can't control. This is the hardest part, and it's the part that will set you free. The Stoics divided life into 2 realms. What you can control, your actions, your thoughts, your choices. What you cannot control, everything else. Spend your energy only where it can make a difference. The rest? Release it. When you put these 6 steps into practice, you stop living reactively. You stop being tossed by the winds of fortune. You stand firm. You act with clarity. You walk through the world, not as someone waiting for things to change, but as someone already changed. Eric learned this. He began lost, restless, and unsure. Now his days are anchored. His challenges are fuel. His life is his own. And yours can be too. Not tomorrow. Not when circumstances improve. Now. The Stoic life is not about being unshakable like stone. It's about being unshakable like the mountain, weathered by storms, yet still standing, still rising, still reaching toward the light. Begin today, and do not stop.